You were here when they had the press.
Good evening. It is 6:30 on October 26th, 2017. The regular meeting for the Vernon Hills Park Board of Commissioners. Could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Kessler.
Here.
Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Commissioner Moline.
Here.
Commissioner Blue. President Dorhofer.
Here, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. The first item on the agenda this evening is the omnibus vote agenda. Items on the omnibus vote agenda are considered routine and/or non-controversial and will be approved by one motion. If a separate vote on any one item is desired, it will be pulled from the omnibus vote agenda and voted on separately. Items included for the omnibus vote agenda for this evening are the minutes of the regular board meeting dated September 19th, 2017, minutes of the closed session meeting September 19th, 2017, minutes of the special board meeting dated October 10th, 2017, and payables Les Granger and payroll through October 26th, 2017 in the amount of $1,172,930.25. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Moline.
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins.
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler.
Yes.
President Dorhofer.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the financial reports for the period ending September 3rd. Marla, or Jeff, I'm sorry. Marla's not here. Jeff, any changes?
None.
And they are on file for the public.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the welcome to our visitors and guests public comment period. I'd like to put in the Sullivan Woods wetland restoration. If I could have Kathy and Don, if you could come up to the podium, please. Kathy Papp and Don Hay. If you could update us on where we stand and if there's any questions or anything you want to present. And then if anyone in the audience would like to have any questions.
We've been giving considerable thought to the project and the objections that were raised by the project since we last were here. And we have changed the plan in accordance to requests that were made by the individuals that we spoke with. And I'd like Kathy to explain what those changes are, and then we'd certainly entertain any questions. And we have a couple of suggestions further that might be done over at the metro station about the lights and the intensity of the lights, without regard to this project. But the changes we've made to the project will keep, in large part, the stream, the wetlands as they are today. Kathy, you want to explain what changes we made?
Sure. So we were asked by Jeff that he had talked with several citizens, and there was really concern about the north end of the property. I'm just going to walk over. Okay, Donald will walk over and kind of point it out. So what we decided to do was to just remove that area from the project footprint. We still plan on installing riffle structures within the CV ditch in Sullivan Woods, but we won't be doing any tree clearing or anything that would impact the trees in that area, so that you are guarded from the light and noise as much as those trees provide. And so that's basically it, and I will open it up for any questions that you might have regarding the project. And I don't know if some of you may not have been here last time and aren't familiar, so please feel free to ask more detailed questions, and I can go into as much detail or not. I just didn't want to repeat a lot of what we went through last time for the people who were.
Kathy, what are ripples? You
A
mentioned
ripple?
Ripples.
Riffles are a normal part of like a stream system. There's pool riffles that occur in natural streams. And what we intend to do is take rock and place it into the stream, which would raise the water elevation slightly within the stream channel, but yet let the water flow through. So it's unlike a dam, so it's nothing like a dam, where water is not able to go through, and you have problems upstream and fish passage issues. This is designed with a slope going up to the toe of the riffle and then down. And so basically, it's just a management practice that's used in a lot of stream restorations or enhancements. Yes?
Where exactly on the map will you be starting the project?
We'll start on project, the northern end, we'll start right here.
So you are pulling out the trees behind all the houses.
Pardon me?
Is that
Well,
what you're doing?
that's,
No.
what, that
Where
is the
you're
northern end.
pointing, that's the
No,
northern
this,
end.
this is where the project starts, that's where the tree clearing starts. And we said, in fact, we said last time, that the trees in these areas, the green areas, will remain just as they are. So you have a double buffer there, if you will. Now, what we've done is we've excluded this area completely from the project.
So right by the golf course, you've excluded.
Yes.
That and protects these houses along in here.
How does that,
How does that affect?
That's,
Why was that choice made?
pardon me?
Why was that choice made?
That choice was made out of the discussions that we had with people and that the Park District.
Who are the people that you spoke to?
Well, I can't tell you, there was one fellow that called, and I called back several times and never
It
got a
was
return
Larry,
call.
Larry.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, okay, hi, I'm sorry.
We never
Yeah.
spoke.
Because what we planned between last meeting and this meeting is to have a number of sessions like this, where we were just looking at the map and talking about, the problems, and we can do the same thing here. If you have a problem along this area here that you're concerned about, we can certainly vary the width of the buffer that will not be affected. We won't touch a tree in there, including buckthorn. Leave it all right there.
so what kind of tree clearing are you talking about in the areas that are affected?
Okay.
What are we talking about eliminating? And another question with that, when was this a wetland? When you're talking about restoring a wetland, when was Sullivan Woods ever a wetland?
Oh, it was a wetland prior to European settlement and prior to farming. Because, and the way we know this is because we look at the soils. We did a very careful soil survey of all this, and there's certain soils that are formed underwater in the absence of oxygen. And the materials in those soils are not oxidized. And so we know that there was a wetland along through here, but in order to farm, in order to drain these areas, when it was a farm, they had to ditch this out so that they could connect their tile drains into what's known as an agricultural outlet ditch.
Okay,
And that started a lot of the problems on downstream in terms of flooding, poor water quality, and so forth. But for farming, it was important, it was necessary. Well, we're not farming it any longer.
right.
And what we're trying to do is to get some of those wetlands back on the landscape. So we trap floodwaters, we clean the stream up, we reduce the nitrogen, the phosphorus that are in the water, pharmaceuticals.
So the benefit to our community
Yes.
is what?
Okay, the benefit to your community, actually on two fronts. One, three. There's an environmental, considerable environmental benefits. And- Oh, I'm sorry. There are considerable environmental benefits, and then there are wildlife benefits, and then there are benefits to you as a taxpayer, because what we have coming out of this is a stream of revenue that would pay to remove the nitrogen and phosphorus, and that would save the treatment plants that serve your community, or the treatment plant that serves your community, from having to remove those constituents or paying the money to upgrade their plants so that they can remove them to the federal government's, state government's requirements. So this project is intended to pay for itself. So with those three benefits, your community substantially gains.
How is that, how can you clear our little water when you've got a bunch of water coming from Antioch all the way down the stream that this joins? Are you planning on doing something with that, or where's the benefit?
Ultimately, that would be a great idea. But what we wanted to do was to start out with this, as you put it, little project, actually it's a pretty substantial project, to demonstrate the benefits.
It's a smaller stream. Why
Yeah.
don't you go after the big cahoon first before you go after a teeny tiny stream that's flowing away from our community that doesn't affect the usage of our water in Vernon Hills?
Okay. Because there are other people in that larger group, and it would mean we'd have to have a room about maybe 3 or 4 times this size. And our thinking was, let's demonstrate this first. Let's show the benefits. And you know, in the end, if you don't like it, take it out. Because what we propose to do
Once you
is,
cut down trees, once you've
Oh.
cut down an 80-year-old live oak tree, once you have cut down elm trees, once you've cut down
We're-
those trees,
excuse me,
to
we're not
just put
taking
them
out
back.
any oak trees.
yeah, we're not taking
We're
out
not taking
any,
out any oak trees.
No, there's no oak trees coming down, no.
Are there any trees coming down?
Yeah, the trees that would be coming down would probably be box elder. It was mainly box elder, canopy in the floodplain areas.
Well, is it possible that the trees, regardless, box elder, oak, cedar, what have you, serve a benefit to the community that once you take them down, you can't put them back up again? For instance, if you live right here and you are in this area, that might protect you from, say, it's noise abatement
Well, that's,
from the train.
you came in late, but we've taken this completely out
So
of
there's up
the.
the gridded area?
Yes, yes, we took that out of the area because of the concern of the lighting and the noise from the train station,
The
yes?
trees that are through there are not exclusively box elder. Box elder are a native tree. There's walnut through there, there's cottonwood.
But they're not really in the, there's not in the floodplain. Those are, the walnuts that I've seen have been more in higher areas along the edges.
No,
There are walnut trees
Hold
throughout.
on, let's take a step back. Talk to me like I'm an idiot. Okay? Originally, you were going here all the way down. Mm-hmm. Based on
Comments
comments
and
from the residents.
concerns. Oh, sorry.
Based on comments from the residents, you've taken this out. How does this address, how does what you've changed by taking this out, how does that address the concerns of these residents that live right here? What is gonna be affected here visually? Because at the end of the day, it's about what's in my backyard, what's my view, how are you affecting me? They don't really care about what's coming from Antioch. The reality is, they care about, you're affecting me personally, and so, the people that live right here in this area, how are they gonna be affected by what you're doing visually? Forget about the floodplain, forget about all the noise around it. How are they affected visually?
Well, visually, there will be a tree screen that will remain of like at least 100-foot buffer. That will be between, and the property lines are kind of back here, so I've stayed off the property lines. So this is really representative of over 100 feet that you have that's kind of buffering your house from the project. We'll say that, buffering your house from the project. But also what you're going to gain is an area that's going to have additional wildlife, habitat. Oh,
Come on. They've studied this a lot more than you have. Don't shake your head and say, no, we're not. Tru-
I invite you to come to my yard and watch what's there.
And you're not gonna get more? Oh,
No.
okay.
I
Good to know.
use all my apex predators,
You're not gonna get more.
I'm not gonna have fox or coyote.
oh, I think fox and coyote will definitely be there
They're
with this
born
project,
now.
yes.
I'm not
well,
gonna
they'll stay
have
there.
the
Yeah, they'll
fox
stay
or
there.
red
Okay, so
tail
let's get back on
or
track.
owl.
The people that live in this area, you're giving them 100 foot, what distance
It's-
of the screening are you not going to impact?
100 foot at least from their, at least, at minimum, 100 feet from their property lines.
How much from property to what distance is current screening? 200 feet, 100 feet, 105 feet?
Oh, probably, there's probably 100 feet in some areas. I would say, like 25 to 100 feet, depending on
So-
where.
So the people that live in this area
Mm-hmm.
are not gonna have any screening effect, is what you're telling me.
Change.
There's gonna be nothing, what they see now is what they're gonna get. Everything that's being done is being done behind these trees. and
Right.
We're not taking anything out.
Right, and even if there, say that there's box elders or some of the floodplain that would go into that buffer, those trees would remain and they wouldn't be impacted. Like, say, box elder is a wetland species, so it would not be impacted by anything that we did. So we're not going to flood them out or anything like that. They're wetland species, yes.
I have comments later, but how come an experimental project needs to be 72 acres?
Well, this,
Scale is important.
yeah,
I mean, we've done this, and this was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I met with Ruckelshaus. He was the first administrator of the US EPA. Okay, I went to him specifically with the thought in mind about what size project is necessary to demonstrate that this could be done on a large-scale basis. And I happened to sit on a NOAA committee looking at how we could protect the Gulf of Mexico, how we could protect the streams between our upland areas and the lowland areas along the Mississippi River. And we came up with something like 5 million acres of wetlands would need to be restored. So when I met with Ruckelshaus, I gave him all the scientific information, all the studies that we've done, and his first response was, scale. You need to scale up. You need to get bigger than a 10-acre research site or a 50-acre research wetland. And so we're scaling up. What we would hope is, and what we're pretty confident of, is that we'll be successful here and that we can move this on downstream and that we can eventually move it on up the Des Plaines River, down the Des Plaines River, and we can reach a much broader community, not only of humans, but of wildlife.
and I want to clarify something that he just said. He had said being successful here, and the restoration in itself will be successful. What he's referring to is within this restoration project is a pilot project that we're proposing to do. And this is to remove nutrients from the water column that come down through CV Ditch and Indian Creek before it hits into the Des Plaines River. And what we're trying to do is trying to see how much nutrient these wetlands can remove, and would it be a successful program for the water treatment facilities? And this is all a pilot project that would be occurring underlying the restoration activities.
What would be the impact, and then I'm gonna go sit down, but what would be the impact of shifting this down to here? You're not losing that much acreage along here. You get it out of the total situation, you pushed it down to basically where the issue lies with the residents. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay, if I push it down to, all right, who's got the farthest south home here?
We do.
Right
Which-
here.
Which
We're in
one?
the corner.
That one?
That's
Yes,
theirs,
right
and
there.
I'm next.
And you're there?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's, I just wanna know how far we have to go. What would be the impact if we pushed it down to this area? And we lost this, and you gained all this?
Well, that would just about cut the project in half.
Why is that? That's less than 20% of the acreage there from what
Well,
I can
if
tell.
if it's only 20%.
It's probably
okay. What we
another,
would probably do is, we'd probably want to go over to your neighboring community here, Long Grove, and talk to them about coming up Indian Creek, because we want to get some scale in here. And that's why we picked this. So that would, if we did that, then we'd need to go over and talk to them. Now, they seemed, at least in initial conversations, to be friendly to the idea, but we have no idea at this point.
and over,
Just a quick question. Did the number of acres increase? Because from what I remember from the first meeting, you currently have 4 to 5 acres of wetlands currently. The number I remember was 50 from the first presentation, and now we see 70. So am I just misremembering, or did the number of acres actually increase between the first and second?
No, I did find an, thank you. Somebody had to remember, I did find an error in one of the in the number that was up there. It should have been 79 acres, but, so when you took the 8 out, it was, 71. It was 70.89 and yeah,
And then just the
thank
last
you.
question, when I look at that, it almost looks like a lake to me, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. We have a lake in the back. So
this
if-
is, oh,
if you-
okay.
If we took a little red marker and made like red dots, how wide is that CV ditch now? And how wide is it in the picture?
If you go up there, there actually are red dots on there.
Oh, do they?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can see.
I didn't see them until I was way up there.
Okay, okay,
There
but
are
it
actually
shows
red
that.
dots that actually will trace the
Right.
ditch down.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I'll just look later. Okay, thank you.
Right. Marker?
Use the
Use the
marker,
marker.
use the marker and trace the ditch.
Oh, trace the ditch out in there.
Okay, here.
Sure, could you trace where it is now, where you anticipate it to be?
Well, we anticipate the wetland to be the blue area. Now, that is anywhere from 6 inches, maybe up to a foot of water.
No,
At mo-
not depth, width.
The width, okay. Well, the width of the wetland is right along this blue line. That's the width of the wetland.
So the channel won't really change. The channel won't change. What we'll do is we'll create different types of wetland communities from wet prairie, sedge meadow to marsh within this area. There might be a couple of open water, pockets where, where birds will go and hunt for frogs and
So will this look like Westmoreland in 83?
what, no. No. No,
Isn't that wetlands?
it is.
So what would the
Is it
difference
gonna be
be?
as stark as that?
That's pretty much just all cattail, correct?
No.
No, it's just an open field of
And they
nothing.
do prescribe birds there, it's a reasonably healthy area.
Okay, so.
It was a wetland project by the
I was
village,
thinking in
yes.
the wrong spot. I thought that was.
You talked about sight with the trees. What about sound? You're gonna be taking down the trees, which impacts the sound of the trains. So it's gonna be much louder.
Well, that may be, but if you really wanted to control the sound because of the height of the train track, you'd have to have a wall that would come over that and over the wheels. I mean, if you really wanted to block the sound. The trees do very little in that regard, but let me just
In
finish.
leaf, they do a lot,
Pardon me?
when they're in leaf, if they're deciduous trees.
Well,
Summer to winter, there's a
the-
significant difference.
The area that we want open to sunlight, because we need to get sun in there, sun help and the microbes do most of the work in a wetland. And
How about insects? How many mosquitoes are in this wetland?
you will have fewer mosquitoes under this plan than you have now. And we did a study. We did a study when we started our research site up at Wadsworth, and the same question was raised, and we hired an entomologist who came out and looked at the mosquitoes, and what you find is that there are more mosquitoes in the shrubby, brushy areas that are there now than when you cleared it off, because the birds can get in and eat them, and we'll also have little top minnows that will eat the insects, the mosquitoes, and mosquito larvae. So you'll have fewer mosquitoes here. You probably have more mosquitoes in your backyard if you have tire swings or anything that holds water. They go like crazy.
So if we go back to sound, right now, we can hear Stevenson Band practicing. We can hear them clear as day. You pull out all that shrubs and all that, everything, they'll be in our backyard. I mean, that's just cutting right across.
Yeah.
Even if you start where we talked about beyond the houses, the sound's coming from the bottom of the page, and it's just gonna go right through.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen because we're leaving the buffer.
Wait,
And-
All right,
no,
so-
no,
so-
this is a band.
No, hold on. I'm going to bring this back to
Yeah.
our meeting, because we're going to go on all night about this, and I've let you guys go as far as I'm going to. Don, we're not gonna approve it like this, even from just a straw poll type thing.
Okay.
If you wanna go back and move it, that headline down past the residents to the edge of where the residents are, understand that you'll have to include then Long Grove for the scalability of your part. That's the first we're gonna look at it. But,
Okay.
based on just conversations and straw poll, there's too much unknown right now for the board to sit there and say, yes, go ahead and do this. So if you want to come back and take a look at moving it down to the end of the houses, and then from there, and understanding, working with Long Grove and partnering with a community, the neighboring community, happy to do that. But I think that's where the board stands right now, and I don't want to waste everybody's time and discuss it anymore.
Sure.
So Commissioner Moline?
Based on, at least I can't speak for the whole board, but I am sympathetic to what you guys are talking about. And so one of the things that makes me hesitate to approve it is the lack of knowledge, for lack of a better word, of exactly what you're gonna do when it comes to, because you guys wanna know what trees are coming out. So what I would, and maybe it's not tagged on there, every tree isn't tagged, right? I mean, or any group of trees. Is there any?
We haven't conducted a tree survey yet, no.
Okay.
But if you want a tree survey, we can do that.
I don't
That's
know,
easy.
but it sounds like that's one of the concerns here is what exactly is gonna come out, what exactly is gonna stay. So I think if you're gonna get the residents to get on board, I think that's the information they need to even make a decision whether they're okay with it or not. And because we are the residents,
Right.
then we need to be okay with what you're gonna do, and we can't be okay if we don't know exactly what you're gonna do. And it sounds like, as I said, it sounds like it's important, and it would be important to me too, what exactly is coming out and what's staying.
Okay.
And so I think until we know that a little more clearly, hopefully I'm not rambling, but if we can get a little more info there, I think that might make the decision easier to make. Whether we make it or we don't, then we'll know what it is we're approving.
Is it safe to say that you will try to move it down past the residential portion?
That's safe to say.
That's what we're saying, they're not going above that right now.
Yeah, that's
Okay?
safe to say.
If they can justify why to go further north than that and show us exactly what, don't shake your head. I said, if they can justify, you can shake your head all you want. But you elected us to make what's best decision for this community, and you know very well what it's like to sit here, okay?
Yes, of all people, Karen.
That's right. So we will make the decision that's best for this entire community, not a series of 4 or 5 houses that are impacted. And trust me, we understand, okay? But before we were gonna make any decision, we would have to have, before we would even look at going north of the housing, we would have to have a much better understanding of what the impact is, what percentage of trees are coming down, where those trees are coming down, and how that's actually gonna impact the community. Commissioner Kessler.
So I have a question to the community because we're giving directive right now of not starting going south of the homes. Is there anyone that sees any issue of them doing it south?
But until we know, Cindy, how would they know?
Well, I guess based on the plans, based on the information you have, I guess I want to give them as much information. If they go back to the drawing board, I wouldn't want them to have to go back again and again. If there's something that somebody sees, I'd like to hear it so we can maybe address that at this time. And then they can take that information back with them.
Yeah, I understand everybody's concern, and I have the same ones regarding the noise and the impacts, but I haven't heard anybody mention the science behind it. And for the people who are making the decision, I can produce papers and people who disagree with a lot of the science behind this project. I mean, and I can go into it if you want, but there's 2 schools of thoughts. There's a school that says we should return Illinois to an original prairie state with native vegetation and what have you. And then there's people that enjoy the woods and they like the way things are now and the habitat that lives in the woods now. And I don't think the board has heard anything like that. There's studies that say that the wetlands aren't gonna help with the phosphorus. The issue of getting wetland credits that can be sold. By the way, I've got 25 years in the environmental field in my career. That say we're gonna be able to sell wetland credits and make money, there's no guarantee we're gonna be able to do that. There's no guarantee that the sewage treatment plant is gonna benefit from this wetland project. So, you know, I was gonna put together a presentation and provide some of the science for you to hear, and I can do that for another meeting if you'd like, but I think you've only heard one side in what my opinion is a science project from people with an academic leaning, and I mean no disrespect, but we live in the community, and if it's gonna be a benefit, you need to hear both sides, you know, what the issues are, where it's not gonna be a benefit.
Yeah, if you could put that together and get that to Jeff, Jeff will make sure it gets in the board's hands. Commissioner Robbins?
Thank you.
One of my questions is, how far south are you gonna go? If you're just gonna go as further south as the most further south homes, you know, how would that affect those particular homes? So, you know, I'm concerned about that. And also, in response to this gentleman's comment, there were some questions here, and your response was, oh, it's gonna be better, it's gonna be better. You know, we'd like to see the scientific behind that to show that it is gonna be better on some of these questions. So,
We can certainly provide you that information.
okay.
I would like to see your reports about wetlands not removing phosphorus. It would
But
be,
again, to my
worthwhile.
first
The board
question,
to see it.
right, it's how far south are you going? So that it won't affect the most further south homes?
Well, that's a good question.
As your starting point, as your
Because
starting
we
point.
have homes down here, as you see, and we have homes along in here. So, I mean, if we said, okay, we want to avoid all this, well, the project goes away. And we go someplace else. And I think the community could benefit, but that's your decision. And
Yes,
the
it is.
community's decision.
Move it down to the far south, on the north side, on the north end,
Yeah,
yep.
if you move it down,
Yep. Take it to there, do what, have the conversations with Long Grove that you need to have.
Now, is there any, excuse me,
Go ahead.
is there any interest in I kind of stopped here, but there is a little bit of room over here that there's.
private, isn't
it's Park,
No, that's all park property.
it's all park property.
That's, yeah, have at it.
And we haven't, investigated
that
here,
would-
but I know that there's not a lot of floodplain, kind of goes
That's
high
all,
pretty quickly,
that's
but-
free and clear, have at it.
I'll see
That doesn't affect
there.
anybody.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
they have to
there
talk
is-
to
Oh,
Vernon.
you still want to,
There's some homes along the other end of there, yeah.
Well, if they stayed on the north side of Indian Creek there, it would
Yeah,
be.
north side, we're fine.
Oh,
and was there any other comments for mine as far as issues if they did, yes,
I just think you have to take the same consideration for the homes in Sugar Creek.
yes,
There's,
South end.
Yes.
there's not very many, I mean, there's some houses that have bought the train tracks. They bought their houses that way, they knew it, but the other houses, just to
Agreed.
consider.
yes.
We don't want to have declining property values for an experimental project.
Yes.
And in terms of use of the woods, for the park board, how come large amounts of trees have already been removed at the southeast end of the woods there?
James?
East of the pass?
James?
Oh, that would be the oak savanna that we started last year. We estimated some of those oaks to be 200. I think we were mistaken because the sample we took out was 150 years old, and that was about 30% smaller than the largest one out there. So we were trying to preserve some of those old oaks that have been here before anyone else was here, literally. And cherry trees and a lot of other invasives were starting to kill them. So we decided to clear that out, and some of you might have gotten a burn notice in the mail. I'll address that right now. That date range is very wide for a reason. The IEPA gives us burn permits for a long period of time, and that is not a prescribed burn. That is a brush burn. So we're going to pile everything up into a big pile and get permission from the village and the fire department, and we're just going to burn the brush. It's not a prescribed burn necessarily. And we'll definitely put out notices well in advance and look for winds going to the east.
So, and the savanna that James talked about was something we talked about for several meetings before we decided to do it and have talked about it a couple times since, so. All right, so you've got where you're at. If you want to move it down, be cognizant of the homes on the very south end. And,
And then you wanted a tree survey of this area, correct?
yeah, so we got to know the impact.
Yep.
You know, if it's 5% of the trees, that's a very different story than it's 50% of the trees. All right? Thank you all very much.
Is that generally acceptable to
That,
the audience?
yeah, we're done.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is reports and communications. Executive Director Jeff Fuscher. Jeff?
Wait a second until the noise clears.
All right, Jeff?
Okay. Well, the first thing, which is not on my report tonight, was just a congratulatory comment to Rick Croza, our Parks Foreman, with just his efforts in applying for the Arboretum accreditation in Century Park. I know Rick was here a month or so ago, giving the board an update on that application, so you've seen some of the postings on that in terms of us being the first park district in the state of Illinois to achieve that accreditation. So we're very, very excited about that. And just a lot of credit to Rick. So with that, he's going to be, over several years now, we'll be adding some new species. They're putting a program in place. I did ask him, instead of the dog tag identification on the trees, some of the board members had asked to be something a little more prominent, so he's investigating something where it's more kind of larger scale, maybe size of a phone that would go in the base of the tree. So you can use it'll be a Q code too, so you can take a picture of it. It'll identify the species of the tree. It'll tell you a little bit more about it. You know, the intent there is, one, from education, but two, potentially people might like a certain species that they want to plant in their own property. So part of the program too is he's got to do educational programming, so we'll be doing, tours, signage in and around the property to let people know about the Arboretum status. This is not something we have to reapply for every few years. It's basically in perpetuity, but you got to provide annual reports and show annual documentation that you're living up to the expectations of the certification or the accreditation. So with that being said, I'll step into our next agency accreditation. And again, we provided that information. I shared with you all of the summary from the review team that was sent to us yesterday. Again, I know I sound redundant, but Amy deserves a ton of the credit, and I know she's very humble and will say it was a team effort, but it's a huge undertaking. It's something that takes a good year to manage and make sure people are following through on their assignments and getting our information. And to be told that we've had the highest score to date is something that is not a small task. And obviously you see from some of the summary, some of the really, I think, positive things that were addressed by the review team, and then some things that we may be a little inefficient in that we have to, as suggestions or recommendations that we should do. One being, like in the month of May, we have our annual meeting where we appoint officers, et cetera, but we don't list it as an annual meeting, but our policy says we should. So, in the form of our agenda that goes out, we need to identify that as our annual meeting. That's just one example. We approve an org chart every year. Usually I present it in my board update. They want the board to officially adopt it and approve it in a meeting. So there's a couple things like that came up during the review. You all have an updated copy of the Hawthorne 73 traffic. That seems to be the main I'll just say, challenge at this point. A couple weeks ago, the school board was here. You saw the effort that they presented in terms of stacking cars in the aquatic center lot as an option for drop-off and pickup. What you have there is a Phillip Road addition and expansion of a drive that would be, at this time, we're being told, for buses only.
I know that I've heard some feedback from the board about vehicles and still the concern of how that would play out. So we'll meet again, the administrative group, we'll meet again in a couple weeks. I'll bring that to their attention. I know there's concern from the village's end about stacking cars along Phillip Road. It's the entry to Victory Center. There's safety issues involved with that. There's obviously people that are residents of that area. Do they want to look out or come out the door and see 30, 40, 50 cars stacking up along Phillip Road? So, you know, that's something that needs to be considered. The village is still working with the school district in conversations with Collier. Collier is the property owner kind of right behind our skate park that has those 3 building structures that they want to sell. The interest of the consortium is to acquire an easement, at least minimum of like a 50-foot easement, so that we could get some vehicular traffic in and out Atrium Drive. So that is, it's not a definite no, but it's still some conversation that has to be had with the group. Just an update, Hawthorne Club, you know, the rain has killed us. Hawthorne Club Playground is starting to get, you know, some work done. Kids Castle, with this cool and rainy weather, they can't do the board in place. It has to be 50 degrees or higher. Today was a good day, but they've been doing a lot of underground work that they have to get in place first. So the contractor had basically told James, not told, but asked James and I if he could put it off till next May, putting the dragon in. We politely declined that request and said there's still a lot of days left in November that could be above 50, and we want you to work hard in getting this project done. So that's the message we sent, and we'll see how that prevails. I mean, if we could get a good week of 50 degree and sunny, they can get that poured, and it should be fine. We're still moving on the I'll just call it the Miracle Field, per direction of the park board at last month's meeting out at Hawthorne Melody. President Dorhofer and myself took a tour of Twin Creek Park in Buffalo Grove has one of the fields. So we got, you know, Dave took some ground balls to make sure that, you know, nothing was taking his eye out or anything. He actually told the guy to hit it a little harder, come on, you know. But we got a good sense of what you know the field would look like, and it's pretty nice. Now, you know, the downside, it doesn't get used a lot. It's a pretty big space, but I think all in all, when you look at Hawthorne Melody Park, it's not being used a lot because of the floodplain issues that we get pretty consistently out there, especially the north field. So there'd be some additional drainage in there. You got costs on that I shared with you. So right now, it would be a good probably 16 to 18 months before that money, because we'd have to levy for it. By the time that money would be available for us to advance this project, that's what we're looking at. So I'll keep you posted on that. Tom will probably talk about some events coming up. And that would be it for now. I did want to talk about something in Marla's report that I wanted to share, and it's mainly, if you read her report, just from a health insurance roll, okay? So that went up about 4%, which, you know, last year we had 0%, but we did increase the premium on that for employees in terms of what they had to put into it. So all in all, quite frankly, with all the changes going on, I'm very pleased with a 4% increase, when I know a lot of my colleagues and some of our local, you know, governments are double-digit figures that they're facing. I don't know what all of you in your walks of life are facing, but you know, we were pretty happy with that. So that would conclude my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Kessler.
I'd like to just make a comment on the traffic flow for the kindergarten building. I mean, my concern would be having cars coming through our parking lot. And my question is, and you may not know, we can get back to me on this, is the proposed road that they're having, how many cars can back up on that? I mean, it's hard for me to get a scale of how many cars would be able to fit into that turn, or are they anticipating it's gonna back up onto Phillips Road also? I'm wondering if it made the turn, would it hold? Is that 50 cars?
So,
And then I'll just add one other
Sure.
comment. After you make the turn, after you get past like the proposed building for the library, I think that's what that is, when you go a little further, could that be bumped out to have a second lane? So maybe buses could be in one lane and cars in another, or I don't know, I'm just.
So it's 2-lane right now,
It is, well,
But it's
one lane,
one lane coming through and then it
one
loops
going
around
and
and
one
one
coming
back,
back.
correct?
And if ideally, if possible, if the cars and buses could both come that way, it probably needs to be 2-lane, at least coming in, because you need to have the buses, you don't want to have the buses stuck behind cars. Or, I guess, I'm just throwing out options. Can that be widened? How many cars can fit there? And and if it can't be widened, if the cars go there, could the buses just go through our parking lot?
So
And
let
then-
me start with your first question of, do I know the distance of it? No, I don't.
Okay.
I drove it the other day, actually I was on the phone with Dave, kind of just mapping it out from Phillip till you got up. And the question that President Duerhofer had is, well, let's maybe think about extending the road all the way through. Instead of you've got this circular drop-off, could we have it come all the way through to Sullivan? So that we could use it, like for example, tomorrow, where we're gonna have a packed house. And if there was a gate there that we could have access to it open, and when we do half a dozen events a year where this building is just full, could we push people out that way? And that was a question I had with Dave Brown this morning, or yesterday, and he seemed amenable to it. But that would mean the Park District would more than likely have to throw down a little bit to make that happen. The question, Cindy, in terms of how many cars would it accommodate, again, that's gonna be based on the distance of what you see here. And I'm trying to look at, the scale they have is 1 inch is 60 feet. So when you look at the bottom of the scale on the
About
drum.
30 cars. I counted, because you
Oh,
can
you were
count
doing it?
spot, I just pulled up the regular map,
Yeah.
as opposed to this map, I pulled up a real map. And counting parking places and assuming, because they're perpendicular to what we're looking at, but assuming 2 parking places is 1 car in the opposite direction, I'm thinking about 30 cars.
30 cars.
That's a guess, but
Is that just the stack along
that
the
goes
property?
from,
That doesn't go down Phillip.
it goes, no.
Correct.
That's from where the turn is at Phillip
Yeah.
down to where the Y is in the parking area,
Okay.
or whatever you wanna
Okay.
call that. It's about 25 to 30 cars is my
Okay.
guess, because
So
there's
the
about
other-
50 spots.
All right.
50 to 55 spots, depending on how far into the Y they would go.
Why they would go and
the
turn around.
School would allow them to go and whatever. Yeah, I started.
The other
yeah,
question, Cindy, is
You
with
doing
the,
this thing? Mr. Monte has three.
I started like in the
with the
white
proposed
parking lot.
addition,
I went from like here.
sorry, with the proposed addition for the library and this road, it leaves them a 25-foot buffer. So if you widen that, you'd get into their buffer probably too much, so they probably wouldn't be. And so even as you come south behind the proposed addition of the library as you come, there's space there then that the school district, if you remember, they wanted to plot out in case they wanted to add on to their building. So they had that little design that they shared with us with another potential school-built structure that would get into play of the road.
Well,
So-
currently, they have that turn coming around, so I guess what I was.
Well, you also have a parking lot there. If you look at that
Right.
turn, they have about 10 or 12 stalls there. That's gone. I
Oh,
mean,
it is?
Yeah, Kalmar looked at that and said, they can't park cars there.
Right.
You know, it's a turnaround and you go out, so I don't
Okay.
know why that was in the drawing, so that just goes away.
So if we did connect it, that could actually be a double lane coming
You
through.
can see where our path comes in, that kind of gray area there, where our bike path, if you will, our walk path, that abuts the very south end of the turnaround kind of butts up against our parking lot, or at least our walk path. So it would have to continue
Yeah.
south.
I guess I'm not trying to solve it. I know
No.
there's good people working on this. I just wanted to voice my concern
Okay.
and encourage as much possible to eliminate cars coming through our parking lot.
Okay.
There are cars parked there. I'm just looking at the actual map, you know, the Google map,
Sure.
and on the north side of where Phillips exists,
Victory Center, there's parking places there.
there's cars there.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean, there's cars parked.
probably 20 stalls there, yeah. And that was the concern that John Kalmar had is, in fact, the day I was driving down there were people pulling out, like backing out of it.
You're
And
locking
the
them in.
entrance of the facility is right there too, and there's people walking out of the building. So it's not exactly the most safe area if you're pulling a lot of
So you're
vehicles.
thinking the village is maybe gonna,
I don't think the village is gonna support vehicles going down there because of that concern. My only comment to that would be, is police it, like you do out here. There's a lot of traffic coming and going and people backing out and coming out around here. Go over to Town Line. Town Line is the worst in the morning because it's a postage stamp parking lot and you're people coming in and out of there and then parking and trying to keep that loop. It's absolutely crazy. And you get people, according to Nick Brown, they don't need to drop their kids till 8:15 and they're showing up at 7:30. And they sit in the parking lot with their kids until they can let them out. And it's like a coffee. He says, we have moms literally pulling in here half hour to 45 minutes before school starts, and they're all just sitting around drinking coffee, talking to each other, taking up parking spaces, and it's absolutely crazy there. That's actually the worst. That if drive by there when it's pickup or drop off, it's really bad versus what goes on here at South Aspen. So
Well, I'm also hearing it's bad in our lot too at times.
there's more and more. You can see out our window, unfortunately people don't read the signs and they still park up here, and wait. But I would say most of the people are parking in the aquatic lot and they're waiting for kids to pick up. I don't see as many parking in our, I would just say our customer lot or our employee lot back here. Obviously, if we have our full-time employees, they're gonna need to park in the FAC lot because we wanna provide space for the school district. At a peak time, we might have 20 cars with employees here. So that's a concern that if you're gonna stack cars back there, we would have to tell our employees, hey, park in this row and only this row because they're gonna go around you and you don't want them having to kind of, do a maze through your cars.
Can we put some signage up to guide people back to the aquatic area and say,
Well, they would cone it, Dave, like they do across the street.
What about
Everything
now?
is, oh, now?
if that's where people are going, let's point them back there,
We
put some
don't-
signage and say, school waiting area. And push them back there and let them kids and keep them off this main.
We could probably do something like that, James.
Yeah, I could put up a sign, maybe a couple arrows.
well, the key would be, is it an issue?
It's an issue when they park out here along the road. That's the issue, and there's a police officer right around the corner. They just don't enforce it, because most of the time they're directing traffic, and, so it's marked, it's tagged, and that's where it becomes an issue, because then when people are trying to get through, it's a little bit tighter to turn. So, thanks for your comments, Cindy.
Any other questions? Commissioner Robbins?
On a different subject, Jeff, how do we promote this new Arboretum accreditation that we just received with our community, the schools?
Cheryl, you want to take it?
Sure. So yesterday, 2 days ago, I met with Rick and we sat down and had a conversation about the project. So I crafted a press release. So it was all sent out yesterday to the media and to the village. It is on our website with the same article. It's been posted through social media too. So that was just all yesterday. We're also going to have creating pole banners for all of our parks and parking lots. And so Jeff and I just talked today. So one of them will say Century Park Arboretum, and those will hang in Century Park, intermixed with some other pole banners. So that'll be coming up probably in the next couple weeks.
Are we promoting, are we going to the schools at all to see if they could use our parks for various classes or whatever?
Well,
with the
that is
students, or-
part of what I read through Rick's application. There will be education. I don't know if he'll be starting that right away, but that definitely is part of the Arboretum plan.
James, you want to?
So the first thing that Rick and I are going to do is put together like a walking tour, kind of like a special event. And then we were thinking about reaching out to the schools if they wanted to do an after school or during school. And then we'll take it from there. Each year we do have to do something to keep the certification accredited.
I'll add one more thing that Rick and I talked about, and I did read it in his plan, is that he does want to invite schools that have horticulture programs, meaning, beyond high school programs, invite them into our park just to show the students in the program that you can plant over 120 species in this Midwest. So when they're learning about horticulture, learning about the trees, he does want to showcase that there's more than just, 20 maple, oaks, whatever we normally would plant. So he is already thinking of reaching out to the horticulture college-type schools.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Next is the Finance HR Superintendent, Marla DeSico. Marla is not with us this evening. Jeff, is there anything to cover?
No.
We're good to go then. Recreation Superintendent, Tom Ritter. Tom?
Good evening. Well, after a very slow registration process, there was a late jump just in the past week. Our youth basketball, we had between 75 and 100 kids sign up. So we're back to our normal range of about 225 players. The number of teams is now set. Our coach recruitment is just about done. They'll be doing drafts and team formation. So there is a late fee to register now, but you can still register for youth basketball. There's most of these leagues, when I say that the number of teams are capped, there still is some space to enhance the size of the roster. So if you want to play, now's the time to register. Practices begin the week of November 27th, right after Thanksgiving, and games start in beginning of January. For the adults, we have a very well-established adult basketball league. We have about 30 teams every year. We have divisions from gold, silver, bronze, and copper, 4 different levels. So if anyone's interested in putting a team together, we can probably accommodate your skill set. Registration begins for resident teams November 6th, and we begin games January 9th. We play on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the area Hawthorne schools. Fall Fest tomorrow night, October 27th. We currently have 764 registrants, and with the last minute and the walk-ups, we'll probably end up somewhere between 850 and 900 people tomorrow night is my guess. Starts at 6 o'clock. We have 22 vendors in the gym, area organizations and vendors that are giving out treats and candy to the kids, as well as a variety of other crafts and activities and open gym, inflatable games, etc. So we hope you all come out for that. And the main change this year is instead of a magic show, we're doing a reptile show, which should be very entertaining, except for those that are afraid of reptiles. Don't have to stay for that if you don't want. November 4th, which is next weekend, our annual pumpkin launch is sold out. So you can get on a waiting list. Unfortunately, you probably can't launch a pumpkin, but I still encourage you to bring out your kids just to watch. It's entertaining to see pumpkins flying close to 100 yards through the air and then splattering, just simple entertainment. We do like pumpkin rolls, we do aiming at targets and longest rolls. There's things that the kids can do other than launch. And my annual thank you goes to Jason Rush again, who is a physics teacher at Vernon Hills High School, who 8 years ago created this trebuchet for us, and he's really fine-tuned it with his students to really make this thing work well and launch well. So he donates his time and brings out his students to help us run this event every year. So hopefully we'll see people come out. I hate to say it's not too early to get ready for New Year's Eve. I know it's not even November, but this will be our 3rd annual New Year's Eve family party, and it's sold out the first 2 years we've done it. We're about a third of the way there, and it's only October, so cheap entertainment and a lot of fun. It's only $9 per person. We have a DJ, dancing for those that would like to dance. We have pizza. We open up the gym so the kids can run around and play. The nice touch Jack added last year was at 6 o'clock. We do our countdown, our equivalent to the midnight countdown, and he has a huge balloon drop from the ceiling, and it was a huge hit last year. I think all the families walk away with a smile on their face. A good way to start off the new year. So if you're interested, it's December 31st, of course, from 4 to 6:30 here at the Sullivan Center. And again, there's plenty of registration right now, but it will not last, I can promise that. And I just want to enhance one thing I mentioned in my board report last month. I stressed how, theater and fine arts tends to be the struggling programs. It's hard to get the big numbers like sports do. And I was proud to say how we had 32 people in our theater program, which is pretty equivalent to what it was last year. And it had already started, I believe, when I told you this, but now we have 55 people in our theater program. 23 kids from preschool through first grade who have a little bit different approach. You know, they don't have individual roles. It's more of a group event. And then second through sixth graders, there's 32. So 55, that's a lot of kids in a theater program. So a lot of credit goes to Margot from the Children's Theater Company that we contract with. They're obviously doing a good job to get this kind of a turnout. So kudos to theater.
And when is their performance, Tom?
December. I don't remember the exact date, but it's in December. They practice and put on a show at the end of the season.
So you'll let us know at the next meeting so people can come and watch them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good
Okay,
point. I'll
cool.
get the date. Yep. And that's my report. Unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Tom? Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, Park Superintendent James Kim. James?
Good evening. I just want to start off by saying that all of our park restrooms will be closed as of Monday, October 30th. Sunday will be the last day they'll be open. Park staff will start winterizing actually on Monday. We've contacted Lake County. They're going to be out to help shut off water and remove meters. I also want to tell the public that VHAC, the Vernon Hills Athletic Complex, will also be closed. Bathrooms. There will be porta potties put out there for that final 2 weekends. I'm just working with them and closing all of our bathroom restroom facilities. Century Park North Pavilion will remain open as a year-round facility, and Hartman Pavilion exterior restroom doors will be locked, but the facility itself is still available for use to renters. Staff are busy. Turf maintenance, we're aerating and overseeding this month. John Christensen, our athletic maintenance specialist, has been working on adding ball field mix to many of our ball fields in Vernon Hills. We've contracted out cutting out some of the lips, and they're just dumping it out here at our Aspen South lot. This calendar year, the Parks Department has planted about 528 new trees, shrubs, grasses, and perennials throughout our districts. Just wanted to congratulations to James Schubert, who passed the Arbor certification. And we are now looking to have one of our staff be a burn master so that we don't have to outsource that moving forward. The Century Park Fishing Pier has been installed. We're just waiting on the custom netting panels between the poles to install for safety reasons. As soon as that's completed, the pier will be open for use. Recently, we did a bridge inspection. Part of that inspection is to go underneath the bridges, sometimes with waders, sometimes with boats. The Century Park Bridge going from the boat dock shelter to the island has been closed for safety issues. Jeff and I are working with a structural engineer coming in the next, hopefully, 2 weeks to take a look and give us an assessment on what we need to do to get it open, or if it's just aesthetic and it's not really a structural issue and we can reopen it. We were also looking to budget to have all of our other bridges in our district assessed for similar reasons. They are getting to be 30, 40 years old, and we should know what we're getting into moving forward. And that concludes my report. If there's any questions.
Any questions for James?
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of usually life expectancy on bridges is pretty extensive. I mean, most of them are 50-plus years. We obviously have vehicle use, so most bridges don't, they're pedestrian, walking or biking, so with all the wear and tear on that. And that's what James was alluding to. We get a lot of traffic, especially when you got fire trucks and ambulances going up there during 4th of July and during summer celebration for pyrotechnic shows. That's the bridge we're talking about, that some of the footings are a little insecure, so we had to shut it down for a period of time.
It's on the north end?
Yes,
The island?
north end. The bridge itself seems to be in good standing, but it's the footings. Probably since July, I'd say the footings have been more and more exposed every rainfall we've gotten. And so now you can really see all the concrete footing instead of just a partial. So again, we're going to get the structural engineer out and tell if it's either sinking, if we can somehow see how far the piers go down. If he says, they should be poured about 10 to 15 feet, then we'd be okay. But if he comes back and says these piers are really shallow, we need to shore up the shoreline under the piers and have a contractor come in and do some work for us.
You want to talk about the island itself with some of the tree?
Oh, yes, there are a lot of dead trees on the island, and some of the businesses over on Hawthorne Parkway have made mention of that to us over the years. A lot of them are pines, Austrian pines. There's a couple ash trees. So right now, logistically, we're looking at how to get them off the island without having to use our bridges. This is prior to us knowing that the bridge was, had an issue. We just didn't want more wear and tear on heavy vehicles going over, back and forth. We've been entertaining a helicopter, cut all the trees down for us and have them lifted off onto the OPA South Century Park lot. Another thought was a large crane, like a high-rise crane that can go up 100, 200 feet, and literally station it at the boat dock parking lot. We would cut them down. No, it's not. And then another one was to float them across. We would have to rent something for our backhoe. It would be basically a small little grabber to pluck them out of the water. And another one was to have some kind of prescribed burn or brush burn. We're still looking at all of our options. We're trying to look for the cheapest one. Right now, getting heavy equipment over until the island is probably not an option at all.
Commissioner Kessler votes for the floating the logs because she's been going for a log roller for a while, so.
I think we should do that and have competitions over there.
There's plenty of logs that you could do that with.
Exactly. What about the paths? I know they needed some, there's some cracks and things on it. Is that on the agenda on the island?
Before the 5K, we did do, I want to say 2 large sections,
Okay.
yes.
I haven't been on it, okay,
So we overlaid where the roots were, where they damaged the path.
great, thank you.
Regarding the additional mix to the ball fields,
Yes.
any rhyme or reason to what we're putting down? Are we just dumping new stuff and gonna mix it in? Or do we do any soil testing to say, this is what we've got? Let's improve what we've got?
John Christian took some soil probes, went down to see how much clay we had and where it met the non-ball field mix clay, and a lot of it is washed away over the years. And some of the lips, they're lips because we didn't have enough clay, ball field mix on the field. So he went back to two places that sell mix and just got him to bring a sample of each. And he's gonna rototill and till it in and make it flat.
So we didn't do any silt contents or anything like that?
He took a soil probe and he looked at the cross section himself. We didn't send it out to anyone. So it wasn't professionally done, no.
Any other questions for James? Very good, thank you. Marketing and Communications Manager, Cheryl Buman. Cheryl?
Good evening. Our winter brochure is just about complete. It will be mailed the week of November 20th. Unique to this brochure, we're trying a pull-out card. It's a tear-out card just for Lakeview Fitness. It won't be, it will be all by itself, card stock different from regular pages. It's gonna be offering a free week trial to anyone who would like to use it, and they have until January 31st to take advantage of that. And we'll be putting a code on it, and they will need to bring it in so we can track who exactly is bringing it in from this brochure mailing. Lakeview Fitness, through the marketing plan that we were working on over the past year, we did create a Lakeview Fitness logo. We dropped the word center on it just for modernization. But so we've started using it, and going forward, it will be in our brochure. We're having some pole banners made with it, and any kind of digital communication, print communication, everything going forward, including apparel, will have the Lakeview Fitness logo. We're going to begin our new homeowner welcome mailings next month. I did include Libertyville in my report, but we are going to take Libertyville out. They do have a good park and rec department, right? So we're still going to include Lincolnshire and Long Grove. And again, it's going to be seasonal. We'll always include a free pass for Lakeview, and then whatever else we're offering seasonally or at the time. We are having our Halloween flash sale on Halloween for Lakeview Fitness. It's basically kind of like a buy one, get one free month on the 31st, and we're charging $31. just a little bit less expensive than your regular 30-day pass. It's usually $37. We're gonna do that just by social media like we've done in the past for St. Patrick's Day, and I think we've done another one. It was very successful, so that will be going on Tuesday. And I'd like the community to know that we are participating in the Toys for Tot program here at the Sullivan Center and also at Lakeview Fitness, our drop-off sites. The boxes are present. You can drop off new unwrapped toys suitable for children newborn through 16 years old, and they will be collected on December 17th and distributed to needy kids in the community. And that's my report for the evening.
Any questions for Cheryl? Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Lakeview Fitness Supervisor Mark Purcell. Mark is not with us this evening. Any report for Mark? Next item on the agenda is Commissioner Committee Reports Communications. There are none. Next item is the board correspondence. The board did receive one letter this month. It reads, Dear Jeff, thank you very much for your support of the VHHS Fall Into Softball Tournament. We appreciate your assistance with scheduling the VHAC fields and enabling us to use them, as well as the general maintenance of the facility throughout the weekend. It was a very successful fundraiser for VHHS softball, and we could not have done it without the use of these fields or your support. We appreciate the support of softball and youth sports in the community. Sincerely, Jan Pauley and David Dorhofer, varsity softball coaches. So, thank you. Personal note, thank you for that. Do appreciate it. Next on the agenda is unfinished business. We have none, so we'll move to new business. 2018 Park Board meeting schedule. Could I have a motion to approve the 2018 Park Board meeting schedule?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the IAPD annual business meeting credentials. Could I have a motion for Park Board volunteers, or could I ask you for Park Board volunteers, not a motion? Yeah, I know where this is going. To be the district delegates and alternate for the 2018 IAPD annual business meeting on Saturday, January 20th, 2018 at 3:30 p.m. at the Hilton Hotel. And I guess I will be
Nominate Dave.
I will be happy to volunteer, and I will volunteer Commissioner Kessler as well. So could I have a motion now to approve Commissioner Dorhofer as the IAPD annual business meeting delegate and Commissioner Kessler as the first alternate?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Discussion? Anybody else want to volunteer? Roll call.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the SRA CLC Accessibility Resolution 8-17. Can I have a motion to approve Resolution 8-17?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes. Administrative policy, item D, Appendix F, OSHA Compliance Policy, Section 5, Bloodborne Pathogen Program. Could I have a motion to approve Section 5 of the Administrative Policy, Appendix F?
So,
Second?
second.
Discussion. So this is a policy we had in place. We're just expanding it for board approval. Is that correct? It includes.
It did not, it excluded specific language to the Department of Labor requires you to have information about mumps, measles, rubella, and we didn't have specific language.
Infectious diseases.
Infectious diseases relative to that. So that's what we're bringing before you tonight.
Very good.
Yep.
Roll call.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes. Next item is the Administrative Policy, Section 1, Board of Park Commissioners, 1.19 Social Media Policy. Could I have a motion to approve Policy 1.19 of Section 1 of the Administrative Policy?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Jeff, you want to bring everybody up to date on exactly what this does?
I'm going to defer to our marketing and communications manager who helped
Cheryl?
write the policy.
Cheryl?
Alrighty. Well, as you know, over the past year or year and a half, our social media has really grown tremendously. And so what I was experiencing was occasionally I would get phone calls from staff saying, there's this little really cute kid in my class, and was it okay I posted his or her picture on my personal site, and just varying things. And so I really felt that it was important to have a social media policy to protect our participants, to protect our programmers, our teachers, and our district as a whole. In many districts, I took most of the wording from other districts that had this in place. So this is just really a protection mode for everybody involved, and just to let everybody know that our marketing coordinator is the voice of our park district for our social media. And so most postings should come from her, because that is coming from the Vernon Hills Park District. It's not coming from her personally. So this is just really making everybody aware of how to use social media responsibly in regard to your workplace.
Okay, so item F, next one we're going to is the social media policy. This one particularly is calling out the board. Okay?
One's the board, one's yours.
Board policy, and then the staff policy, personnel.
Well, actually, the policy is one and the same, but it appears two places in our administrative manual. It appears first in the board manual, which is section 1, and then it will appear again in Appendix C, which is our general personnel policies.
Okay. So this does not this only covers social media from an official park district sanctioned media outlet. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure I understand that.
If somebody puts something in the Deer Path Neighbors and talks about the park district, and I go out and answer them as park district as David Dorhofer, but giving an answer to this is what's happening, or Mike Moline answers something, or Cindy or Bruce, does that limit what we can put on our personal page?
Well, we've discussed this a little bit, and as a representative of the park district, the board, we're just asking that whatever answer you may give, like, as a resident, you can answer anything you like as a resident, but if you want to refer to yourself as a park board commissioner, let me tell you, we would ask that you would check with Jeff just to make sure what you're going to post on behalf of the park district would be the correct one, because again, it's coming from you personally as a park board member and not the park district, because we as the park district are not on, let's say, for an example, let's say there's a Deer Path group. We're not going to answer it because they're not asking us. They're not contacting the park district. It's not coming to our social media site asking us a question. They're putting out information on your neighborhood site, if that's what it is. So yes, you can respond and identify yourself. I'm answering not as just a resident here. I'm answering as the park board president of the Vernon Hills Park District.
And I think we all, as board members, need to be cognizant that just because you don't put Mike Moline, commissioner, at the end of it, that people don't realize or won't assume that when they see your name, not everybody, obviously, we're not famous, but enough people know, some of us, that it's important that you realize that making a statement, even if it's me personally answering it, depending on what it is, what question it is, we just need to be cognizant that it really does sound like the board is answering it, even if it's just one of us.
Great point.
Yeah, but I would just say, for the benefit of the board, if you're going to respond to those individual sites, and I would say with 100% consistency, the board has at least communicated with me in advance, hey, I'm looking to post this, is this okay?
That's my point.
So that
I'm not saying you can't do it, but I think we need to, I think every one of us needs to be cognizant of the fact that it could be interpreted as a park district response.
Right.
And as a park district response, it's important that the park district know that you're responding and what you're responding before you respond.
At least you guys have been really good about, okay, Jeff, what's the, get me some background on this, and I get you background, and then you can post it, because.
Well, we have had a couple times where there's been miscommunication, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Moline?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
President
Yes.
Dorhofer?
Yes. Next item on the agenda, item F, Administrative Policy, Appendix C, Personal Policies, Addendum F, Social Media Policy. Can I have a motion to approve Addendum F of the Administrative Policy, Appendix C?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes, next item on the agenda is the W.W. Granger invoice. Could I have a motion to approve the Granger invoice in the amount of $407.81?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
I'll abstain. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Meline.
I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Robbins.
Nothing.
Commissioner Kessler.
Wishing everyone a happy Halloween.
And likewise from Commissioner Dorhofer. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you all.